Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Sharansky with the National Center for Biblical Parenting, and I'm on vacation this week with my wife. We're celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary, so we're enjoying our time away. We went to see the Jesus play in Lancaster. We're by a lake, and we get to see the eagles and the hawks flying down over the lake. We're eating some good food. Pleasure. I want to talk about pleasure today, and I think there has to be a balance in our lives between pleasure and work and rest and all of those things that we do. But there's a problem in many children's lives. Some children get hooked on pleasure, especially between the age of 10 to 14. And when they do, then a number of challenges happen in their lives. And so I want to talk about that for just a bit. I think that kids who get hooked on pleasure, or they don't have the balance of pleasure and other things in their lives, find themselves in a lot of trouble. And then they become demanding or controlling, or they hinder the progress of family life. So there's some very specific things we can do in this area, but we have to understand what pleasure is as related to the heart. The heart of a person contains things like their desires and their emotions. So a person who has strong desires to do something isn't necessarily bad, but when those desires turn into temptations, they can move in a negative direction. Desires exist inside of the heart, and because of that, we have to monitor them, we have to control them in our lives. The other thing I want to draw attention to is emotions exist inside of the heart. So feelings like love or joy or peace exist in the heart, but so does excitement, and pleasure has this ability of touching us on a heart level. Now, I think it's important for our young people between the ages of 10 to 14 to grasp this idea that pleasure isn't their ultimate goal in life. I have to say that because we have to start with parents. Sometimes parents believe, as they're working with children, that their goal is to please them. Their goal is to help them to be happy in life. Happiness is not the goal. And if people start thinking happiness is the goal, then bad things start happening. Children become self-focused. Good things don't happen in the midst of that. And children develop a warped sense of reality, and they end up going in the wrong direction. So when pleasure becomes your goal, it's a problem. Pleasure is not bad. It just can't be your goal in life. I say that we have to start with parents for this reason. I find that some parents, when they send their kids out the door, they say something like this: have fun, as if that's the primary goal that child has when he goes out to meet the rest of the world. Or when a child comes back in from their day, whether it be a school day or an activity they went to, what's the question we sometimes ask them? Did you have fun? Is that the measurement of success for a child? See, a child who believes that fun is the primary goal of life can end up with some significant imbalances, and it's a problem. Pleasure is a good thing, but taken to its extreme, people become addicted. Addiction is a term we use to describe someone who has this high need for something to satisfy them. A high need for something to satisfy them. So that's, I would suppose, why a lot of young people get involved in video games and they don't want to stop. So if mom asks them to do a task, well, that's an interruption to my mission in life, which is to get to the next level of my video game. Video games aren't bad. It's just that they fit into this area of pleasure, entertainment, and they can get us sidetracked. There are other people who, by the way, as adults, get sidetracked and so emphasizing work that becomes imbalanced. We have to have a balance between pleasure and rest and work. Those are the things that happen in our lives. How? That's the question. How are we going to help children grasp this? Now, I would suggest, first of all, in ThrivingKidsConnection.com, which is our online closed group that you can have access to, just email me at scott@biblicalparenting.org. It's closed right now, but I can give you access if you want. Just email me at scott@biblicalparenting.org, and I'll let you into that group. It's a closed group where we're dialoguing about these things. And Kathy Dunlap posted last week a message that I really appreciated. She asked this question of her children. She has 8 children that she's working with in her family. And she asked, what makes a good home, or what makes a perfect day for you? And she just let her kids kind of explain what they thought was a good day or a good home or a perfect day for them. One of the kids said he just wanted to eat all day, everything in the house he wanted to eat. So some kids, that's what they're thinking. But other kids started talking and actually realizing that if you're going to have a balanced life, well, we need to make sure chores are done. We need to, and she used that as a question to get into their hearts. What are their hearts saying? What's going on the inside? Because the goal in life can't be pleasure. Between the ages of 10 to 14, children often are emotionally driven. They're making decisions based on what feels good. That's why these kids at this age often engage in risky behavior, or they eat junk food, or they stay up late at night, or they can't handle a cell phone, or they're texting in the middle of the night and they're not getting the sleep they need. 10 to 14, it's a hard age. And especially in that period of time, kids need limits in order to be able to balance the pleasure. Often they don't have the internal qualities inside of their heart, like self-control and so on, to manage the desires that they have. They need parents who are going to come along and say, that's enough. We're not going to do any more of that right now. We're going to stop that activity, whether it's a video game or texting on a cell phone or whatever. We're going to stop that. You need to be doing something else. Children need parents, especially during that age, 10 to 14, as they need in all ages, but 10 to 14, they need high structure. Children who are engaging in pleasure need structure in their lives, and parents provide that opportunity for them to connect. So look for ways to provide that structure. But here's the key, I think. The key that moves a child from pleasure seeking to something else is this move in their lives to mission. When they get to be usually 16 to 20, give or take 2 years, then they start developing a mission-oriented view of life. I'm going to college, therefore, I'm going to work on my grades more than I have in the past. Or I'm going to be healthy, so I'm going to stop eating junk food. These kids move significantly in their hearts to a new shift. They're going to something different. They're moving in their hearts to this mission-oriented view of life. And it's that mission-oriented view of life that helps them have a purpose. They know where they're going, and then they can drop off some of the emotionally driven stuff. Now, it is true that there are some young people who don't grow out of their adolescent drive for pleasure. And so we see these young people grow up to be in their 20s, still playing video games and living at home. Limits need to be set. If we want our children to grow up and develop into these people who are responsible and mature, then they have to develop a mission-oriented view of life to overcome their strong desire for pleasure as the primary and dominant job description of their lives. Now, as Christians, we know that our primary mission in life is to glorify God, to be disciples of Jesus, to pass on a message, to live life as a person who's committed to Jesus, that we use our resources in that way. So I was playing with my granddaughter this week, Sailor, and she wanted to play Wonder Woman, and so I would freeze in a particular position, and I'd say, help me, and she would come. She would say, oh, somebody needs some help, Wonder Woman on the rescue. And she would come, and I said, I really think you ought to pray, because that's where the prayer is. She says, Wonder Woman, she doesn't pray, she has powers. And so I had an opportunity to talk to Wonder Woman, my little granddaughter, about the power of prayer and try to influence her in this area of drawing on spiritual resource. So she goes to church. She understands who God is. But had she made that jump in her own life to her play to understand that God is the one directing her? Mission-oriented view of life. We've got to be moving in that direction. I wrote a blog post. It's on our blog at thrivingkidsconnection.com. You can check it out there, and it's all about this idea of pleasure versus mission in life and how we can help our young people, especially ages 10 to 14, choose to have more of a mission. It often involves more parental guidance, leadership, and some pressure sometimes in their lives and limit setting, but also visioning that life is more than just having fun. and that's going to take some work to help our children develop that. So I trust that you'll take a look at that blog post and the other resources we have there. We have lots of resources at the National Center for Biblical Parenting, especially dealing with that area, 10 to 14-year-old. If you have a child in that age group, you're going to want to read the other blog posts. Look at the teen side in the index of the other articles we've written that have to do with teenagers. But check out the blog. Come and see what we're doing there at National Center for Biblical Parenting. We're interested in heart-based tools, biblically based tools that help our children understand life and can grow in their maturity. Thank you very much for listening.